Hey guys, what's up? This is Jason Henry, TheRedHeadHenry, and today we are getting back on track with the tutorials, and we're going to be covering some camera movement, and then from there, actually, I think the next tutorial that we're going to be looking at is going to be getting into some custom-made effects and everything. So this will be kind of the last tutorial on kind of the basics of learning just kind of how to animate inside of After Effects. So we're going to be looking at camera movement today, and actually we're going to be recreating this this certain scene here from Goku Versus. So I'll just go ahead and play this for you guys so you can see what we'll be creating today. So it was kind of quick, but it's essentially the part where the camera zooms in really fast, then you see the two characters punch each other, or hit each other. Then the camera pulls back really quickly. Then you see two more characters come into screen and hit each other. Then the camera pulls back one more time, and then you see another two characters come in and hit each other. And then they'll either teleport out, or we'll just play around with how you want to get them out of the screen there. So that's what we're going to be creating today. So go ahead and download the project file for this. I've got the link to that in the description of the video, so you'll get the sounds and the sprites. And actually, you'll get this project file also as well. So let's go ahead and just get started. Open up After Effects, and we're going to go up to Composition, New Composition, and we're going to call this Main Comp. We're going to do this in HD, so make sure it's 1280 by 720, locked at 16 by 9, and duration, we'll actually make this, let's see, we'll go 10 seconds just to be safe. And then say OK. Composition, New Composition. Now we'll call this one Sounds. Actually, we'll go SFX for sound effects. And make sure everything is the same and say OK. Next, we're going to import in all of our files. Oh, make sure you're in your main comp here. So go up to File, Import File, or you can hit Control-I. So when you download that project file, you'll get the background and you'll get all the sprites here. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and bring all these guys in. Control-I, and we'll import in the sounds here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this organized. We'll call this SFX for sound effects. Drag those three sound effect files into that folder. And we'll do a new folder, and we'll call this Sprites. We'll take all these sprites and throw them into the Sprites folder. Then we're just going to color code these here. Actually, we'll do one more folder. Just call it BG for background, and we'll throw that background dynamic inside the background folder. So let's colorize these. We're going to be working with Frieza as the main enemy. So we'll get to that in a little bit here. So I'm just going to colorize Frieza as, I don't know, like purple. Gohan, we will colorize him blue. Goku will be orange. And Trunks, we will make him, I should have made him purple. We'll just make him yellow. Okay, so inside your main comp, make sure you throw in that sound effects composition in there. So now that we've got that out of the way. So next you're going to want to throw in the background, this BG dynamic. Actually, I'm going to colorize that as none. Make it like this gray color. Throw that right on top of that layer there. We're going to actually lock, actually we'll scale up the background first. Let me turn this live update on. There we go. So I actually gave you a little bigger version of this background to work with. So we're just going to kind of move it over to the left. And if you want to zoom in and out on your stage, I'm just using the little spinny wheel thing on my mouse, as opposed to coming down here to the window or clicking. So I think the background looks... I think that looks okay as is, so I'm just going to, no, we'll leave it. We'll lock the sound effects layer, and we'll leave the background how it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down. Now, with Frieza, what I'm going to do is, last tutorial we were in Photoshop, and I showed you guys how to colorize the characters inside of Photoshop. So actually I'll show you how to colorize characters inside of After Effects, though I'd recommend that you don't do it this way, but in case you want to, or you don't have Photoshop, or maybe you don't have MS Paint for whatever reason or something, you just know how to do it inside of After Effects. So let's bring out, first we're going to bring out this Frieza Fly. I'm going to scale him up. I'm hitting S on my keyboard. We'll scale him up to 400. That's fine. Actually, if you come over to Effects and Presets and just type in Key, and then just click on Color Key and drag that over to your layer, then you just have that open. You can always just click and drag it every time. So make him nice and pixelated here, and we'll key out that background. Well, actually, that's fine. So we're going to have him come off screen from the left, and then we're going to have Goku come off screen. Actually, we'll start with Gohan. So bring in Gohan Fly, scale him up to 400. Use this color key on him. And get him looking nice and crisp. And then we'll flip him, so you can just right click on the layer, go up to Transform, and flip horizontal. Okay, so the way we're going to set this up is we're going to animate them all first, flying in and hitting each other, and then we're going to add the camera later. So it's not going to look that great starting out. So so let's go ahead and do this. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to actually scale these guys up a bit more. We'll do 600 for both of them. Whoops. That's good. I'll actually scale up this background a little bit more as well. Okay, so we're going to have Gohan off screen here. Frieza on the other side. We're going to wait about a second. Move these guys over. And now we'll just keyframe with them. So hit P for Gohan, position. We'll bring him in. Whoops. Page down 1, 2, 3 times. And then we'll just bring him in to about the middle. And same with Frieza. Make sure you're at the beginning. Hit P. Click on the position and page down 3 times. 1, 2, 3. That's fine. Page down one more time. Then we're going to do Shift Control D on both of these layers and backspace. And now we're going to bring in, let's see here, we have Gohan attacking. So we will scale him up to 600. Get that color key on him. And flip him horizontally. Let's bring him up here. Get him looking nice and even with that previous pose. And I'm moving the anchor point in front of his elbow. And again, to move that anchor point, you just want to click on this pan behind tool. Let's move this layer back. And now let's bring in for Frieza. Let's see, Trunks is going to be getting hit, and Goku is going to be blocking. So we're going to use the Frieza block. And we'll scale this up to 600. Color key, and key out that background. We're going to move the anchor point right in front of where he's blocking, so right by his arm there. And let's just get him lined up properly. About right there. And a little forward. That's good. So they're going to fly in. We're going to have Gohan. We're going to hit S, unlink X and Y. And we're just going to bring him in to make it look like, he's really forcing that punch on Frieza here. So we're just going to pull this back down to around 5. Actually, that might be too much. Say around 530, negative 530. So set a keyframe. We're going to bring that over we'll say 20 frames, go back and actually type in -600 at the beginning. So it should be looking something like this. And then we'll do the same thing for Frieza here. Hit S, unlink X and Y, set a keyframe at the beginning, then scrub forward 20 frames so you're aligned with the other keyframe here with Gohan. And we will just bring forward, or bring back, sorry, this down to around 530 as well. That might actually be too much. He looks kind of retarded like that. That's fine. 570. So now it's like they're both kind of squishing each other. And I probably should have stated that this tutorial might be a little longer than the other ones. Only because that now that I have this unlimited time, I can take all the time I want. So that's awesome. So we're going to page down. Make sure you're on that 1 second and 20 frames mark. We'll page down one time and hit Shift-Control-D. Actually, no. We're going to leave them because they're going to be in the background. So next we're going to throw in, we'll do Trunks getting hit. So we'll throw in Trunks first. So we'll do Trunks fly. And we'll scale him up. We're going to actually scale him up to 600 as well. We'll do this color key. Get him looking nice and neat. Right click on him. You guys can do this how you want, but I'm just going to have all the good guys on the right side and all the bad guys on the left side. So we'll flip him horizontally. And now we'll bring in Frieza. We're going to use that same Frieza fly. Scale him up to 600. Make him pixelated and throw in that color key. And just key out that background. So the way you want to position him is kind of like almost like a stepping stone is where this next one's going to be, because they're going to be, first you'll see this one, then it'll pan back to this section here, then it'll pan back again, and you'll see Goku and the other Frieza on the next one. So actually we're going to colorize this Frieza first. So if you want to change the color of something, there's a bunch of different ways you go about doing it inside of After Effects. The way that I think works best if you want to colorize a sprite a different color or something, you could do curves or you can do hue and saturation. So just for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to type in hue under effects and presets, and where it says hue and saturation, I'm just going to drop that right on this Frieza here. Now from here, this is, if you're familiar with Photoshop, this is essentially kind of the same thing. Hue and saturation, you can mess with his the brightness. You can mess, with the lightness, making them all white or dark. Or sorry, the saturation was from before. So how bright you want to be, or if you want to maybe black and white, or if you want to completely like change his color altogether. Maybe he's got like, I don't know, maybe instead of purple, he's like this blue kind of color. Actually. And if you want to do a colorize, you can completely change his color. So maybe he's like a Kaioken Frieza or something. We'll just make him, I don't know, we'll make him like a dark green. Just to get some different variations going here. Actually, we don't want to go with green because the background's green, so we'll just go with like a dark blue. That's fine. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but that's just one way of doing it. Just again, that's hue saturation. Just drop that on whatever layer you want to colorize, and then you can just do it from there. So we're going to leave him like that, and let's go ahead and keyframe this out. So we're going to have them there. So we'll start with Frieza first. We're going to go ahead and hit P. We'll set a keyframe first, and we'll page down 1, 2, 3 times, move that keyframe forward on that marker, page back 3 times, and we'll just bring him off screen. Just like that. Same thing with Trunks. Go ahead and hit P, set a keyframe. We'll move that keyframe over 3 frames, and on this first keyframe, just move him off stage. So now they're both flying in towards each other. You guys will actually have to forgive my voice. Was sick yesterday, so I'm still kind of recovering from that. Hopefully it doesn't sound too bad, but just giving you a heads up. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have so far. It's probably not going to be that great. So it's a little fast. But again, we're not even done yet. So now once they fly towards each other, 1, 2, 3, page down one more time, select both those layers, Shift, Control D, and backspace to delete that. So now we're going to do, I believe Trunks is the one who's getting hit here. So this TK hit, bring that in there, scale him up to 600. I'll actually just go in and type key for color key, drag that right on there, key out that background, and we were just going to flip him horizontally. Yeah, you thought you were so tough in the anime, right? Now you're getting your ass kicked. That sucks, Trunks. So we're going to move this anchor point right by his face, and we're going to position him kind of like this. And then again with Frieza, we're going to use this FRZ punch. Place it on top. Scale it up to 600. Color key. Pixelate. And we'll move that anchor point in front of his hand right there. And if you want to just copy over that hue and saturation from the last one, just hit Control C after you select it, and then paste it right on this layer. Boom, he's a different color. So we'll move him about like this. That's fine. So now with Trunks, we're going to go ahead and hit P, and we're going to move him just slightly over the span of about a second. It doesn't need to be exact here, because we might go back and change this later. So just a little bit like this, and then we're also going to mess with his scaling properties. So unlink X and Y, set a keyframe at the beginning. We're going to hit U to bring up the position to show where our position was that we last left him. And we'll just bring in, whoops, not a lot, but just enough to make it seem like he's been hit and he's going backwards. So we'll page down one time, Shift Control D, or no, we'll leave him because we are going to come back to him later. And then for Frieza, mess with the scaling properties for him, set a keyframe, unlink X and Y, and we'll scrub forward. Let's get this lined up with the other one. I just hit U on my keyboard to bring up all the keyframes. And we'll just bring him forward to around 650. And I suppose we'll do a position for him as well. Set a keyframe at the beginning, hit U, and we will just bring him forward slightly. So now let's take a look at what we got here. So it might be choppy for you guys, but we're getting there. Okay, so next we're going to do Goku and a different colored Frieza. So let's throw in this Goku fly. And again, we might be coming back later to mess with all these layers once we throw in the camera and get everything finalized. So we're going to scale him up to 600. And type in key for color key, drag that right out, key out that background, pixelate the sky, flip horizontal. And if you're actually running an older version of After Effects, I don't know if CS4 had it, but I know CS3 does. If you right click on something and go to transform, it might not have flip horizontal or flip vertical. There is a way you can fix that. You can come over here to his, or actually, I don't think that would work in this. You could just go over to Effects and Presets and type in Flip, and then there's two here that's called, like, one's called Flip and one's called Flip Flop, and I believe if you select them both and drag it on there, yeah, it does flip him. So I'm just going to Control Z and undo that. So you guys don't need to do that, but that's just another way of flipping an object inside of After Effects, but that just depends on what version you have. So, but if you can, make sure you right click and go to transform and see if you can flip him horizontally or vertically first. And if you can't, then go and do a flip and a flip flop, and that'll flip him for you. Or I believe, I don't know if this will do it, but if you click on scaling options, I'm going to unlink X and Y, and if I just type in 600, it should just flip it. So I know After Effects CS5 can do that, but I'm not sure about CS3. So if you have, if you're running CS3 and that doesn't work, let me know. But that's fine. So we'll just continue for now. But that's just another way of flipping something, because I had gotten a message on that before. Okay, so we're going to zoom in here. Throw Goku right there. And again, we'll throw in this Frieza fly. Now in the actual animation for Goku Versus, they all didn't fly in. Some of them teleported in, so you guys can experiment around, and if you want to have them teleport in as opposed to flying in, by all means go ahead and do that. But just for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to have them all be flying in. So let's throw this color key on Frieza here, scale him up 600. And what are we going to colorize this guy as? I don't know. So many decisions. Maybe, you know what? We'll just make him like a shadow Frieza. Maybe not that dark. Something kind of like that, I guess. You guys can do what you want. So let's get him positioned here. We're going to move actually these guys a little more kind of like that. We may have to mess with the scaling of these guys too once we get the camera going in there. So let's get the keyframing here. So we're going to move Frieza off screen. Actually, I'm going to do that. Page down 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Set a keyframe. Page back 3 times and just move him back. Position for Goku. Set a keyframe. Page down 1, 2, 3. Just move it over. Bring him back. I'm holding down Shift to move him to make sure that he's all nice and straight. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Page down one more time. Shift Control D on both those layers and delete. And now we have, so Goku's going to be blocking here. Scale him up to 600. Let's get this key, color key going. Whoa. We're going to move that anchor point right in front of his hands. There's different ways you can do this for a block, especially in this pose. You can have the anchor point right in front of his hands, or you could have it right here by his foot. It's just personal preference, but because that's where that kind of, it's not really a bounce, but it's where the scaling is going to be taking place. So I'm just going to put it by his hands for this. And let's get him looking about right. A little forward, that's good. And let's throw in, now Frieza's going to be, I think he's just going to be punching him. So Frieza punch 2. And we're going to move that anchor point right in front of his fist. So about right there, that's fine. And we'll copy over that hue and saturation. So Control C and Control V, and that's good. So now we're going to go forward about a second. Mess with the scaling options. So we'll set a keyframe right at the beginning. I'm just dragging it over because that's his default stance. I'm going to set a new one at around a second in, unlink, and we'll just bring it in about 550. That's fine. Same thing with Goku. Hit S. We're going to set a keyframe, move it forward, and then we'll just bring him forward around 550. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got going so far, because I'm pretty sure now this will be looking a lot better. So we will have to go back. You'll notice how like Gohan and Frieza stop, and then the other Frieza and Trunks stop, and then Goku and Frieza comes in. So we might have to go in and fix that when we get the camera going. But let's go ahead and throw in those sounds first. So in that SFX composition, we're going to throw in these sounds. And I also gave you guys the whooshing sound as if they're flying in. But I'm not going to use that, but that's just if you guys want to use it. So I gave you guys that sound effect for that. So let's get this looking here. Maybe I will throw that flying sound in. So we're going to page down until that first hit. Go into that sound effects composition, and we're just going to do, oh man, which one is it? I think strong kick first, but I'm going to preview that. Yeah, so we'll go strong kick. Then the next one where Frieza punches Trunks, right at the beginning, we'll do strong punch. Get that lined up right there. And then the one with Goku, right at the beginning there, we'll do a strong kick again. So I just want to see how this looks. So we're going to actually move these Goku and Frieza ones forward a bit because they're a little slow. About right there. So that should look a little quicker now. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in this camera. Now we're going to be doing, actually I wrote down on my notes that we're going to be using 2 null objects, but we might be using 3. So let's go ahead and get started with that. You're going to go up to Layer, New, Null Object. Okay, and we're actually just going to hit Enter and rename this Cam1. And all of these layers, including the background, except for the sound effects composition, hold down Shift and select them all, and then just pick whip them to that camera. Okay, so now we're going to mess with the scaling options for this camera. Now make sure you're at the very beginning here, right before Trunks and Frieza enter the frame. So we're going to scale this in about like that. Let's page down and see where they're at. So I'm going to hold down Shift. If you hold down Shift and with that cam layer selected, if you hit S and P, so hold down Shift, S for scale, and P, that brings up both the position and the scaling properties at the same time. So I'm going to set a keyframe, or actually no, I'm not going to set a keyframe yet. But we're just going to get these guys looking good here. Okay, so we want to have them in the middle. So that's fine. Okay, now for this next one. Right when Trunks and Frieza, I don't know if you can see it on my timeline here, right before they're about to enter the come on stage, we're going to set a keyframe for position and scaling. We're going to page down, I have written down 3 times, but it might be 2. So 1, 2, and we're just going to bring this down and scale it backwards. Let's move it over a little bit. Maybe a little more. So let's see how this looks. It might be a little quick. It should be okay. You guys can play around with it if you want. But we're going to leave it like that. Now, if you want, you can scale up. You can go back into the scaling options for both Trunks and Frieza here. And you can scale them up, although we'd already did set keyframes for them. So if you wanted to, you could scale them up, say another 100 or 200 so percent, and then it would make it seem like Gohan and Frieza are more in the background, and then Trunks and Frieza are a little more in the foreground, and then you'd do the same thing for Goku and Frieza. You'd scale them up another 200 or so percent to make it seem like it gives you that, it's giving off that sort of depth feel. But we're just going to leave it how it is for now. Okay, so for the next one, right before Goku and Frieza enter, we're going to set another keyframe, so for position and scale. Okay, so set those 2 keyframes and page down 2 times. So 1, 2, and now we're going to go down again, scale back a little bit, and just bring it over. Now the trick is with this is that you want to try and get all 3 of them in the frame at the same time. At least that's how I did it for Goku Versus. So I'm just going to move these keyframes forward just because that's where the hit is taking place, just so I can try and get them all in frame, or at least somewhat in frame. I don't know about that. That might look a little weird. 1, 1, 2. So let's see how this looks. Might be a little slow too. We might need to speed it up. So let's see the whole thing, what we have so far. Alright, that's looking fine. We're actually going to throw in another null object. So layer new null object. We'll just colorize this one purple. Or actually no. Pink is fine. And we're going to parent this camera, this cam1. Actually, we'll rename this one cam2. So we'll parent cam1 to cam2. And right at the beginning here, go ahead and hit P. Whoops, for cam2. Set a keyframe, and we'll say around 4 seconds, we'll hit another keyframe. That's fine. And now we're going to use that wiggler again. So we're going to come here and make sure that we're going to actually add now this just the camera flow, as if the camera's just, kind of got that handheld camera kind of effect. So we did that on the last camera movement tutorial. So what we're going to want to do is make sure that you have spatial path for the apply to. The noise type is smooth, and the dimensions is all independently. So for the frequency for this, we're going to say 1.4, and the magnitude, we're going to bring that up to around 19. Now this might be a little bit much, but we're going to preview it out and see how it looks. Actually, it's not a lot, so just Control Z. So this is where you can kind of experiment around. We'll bring the frequency up to, we'll leave the frequency how it is and bring the magnitude up to 25. Let's apply that and see how this looks. Okay. Let's try it with a frequency of 2. Oh, is this... Ooh, touche. I did like it how it was at, so we'll try it like 1.6. So this is where you guys can just play around and do whatever you think looks best. It might be hard for you guys to tell because I'm recording at 15 frames a second again, so this is a 30-second or 30 frames composition. But I'm thinking that looks pretty good. So we're going to add a little more flair to this. I guess I will add another camera layer. So layer new, null object. We'll colorize this one, I don't know, sandstone. And we'll call it cam 3. And this is going to be the effect where when they hit, the camera is going to go up and down. So we're going to make it look like it's like a big hit here. So I'm going to go ahead and right at the beginning where Gohan and Frieza first do that first punch, I'm going to hit P. It's a keyframe, and we'll page down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 times. Okay, set another keyframe, select those 2 keyframes, and now we're just going to do dimensions Y, and we'll bring the frequency up to 25, applied. Let's see how this looks. It might not, again, you might have to play around with this. That's actually fine. So we'll just copy these keyframes, Control C. And we'll zoom in here, do the same thing for Trunks. So we'll paste them, Control V. Boom. And then same thing for Goku, Control V. Boom. And now we're going to add one more little effect. We'll go to Layer, New, Solid. Make sure it's same dimensions and that it's white. Let's say OK. And we're going to cut this thing up here. This is going to be kind of like that big hit flash effect. We're actually going to put this below the cameras, but it's not going to be parented to any of the cameras. So let's mess with the transparency here. We'll make it 0, just so we can see how many we want to do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll say 5 frames. Shift Control D on just that one layer. So we'll bring it up to 100, set a keyframe for the opacity, and then right at the end, before the end, you want to bring that down to 0. Okay, so we'll just duplicate this layer. So Control D and Control D again. So we'll move this other one forward where Trunks is getting hit by Frieza right there. And then we'll take this last one and do it where Goku is getting hit by Frieza. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So then if you wanted to, you could even have them all like teleport out at different intervals. And then since I gave you this really long background, we're going to mess with the position for this. You guys don't have to do this. So I'm just going to set a keyframe right here, right after they're all done hitting each other. We'll page down 1, 2, 3 times on this background dynamic layer. And you could, or actually no, since we're doing it with the camera, set it for the position 1, 2, 3 times, and then just move it over, and then maybe you can go like after they teleport, you know, the camera moves over there and then you see somebody else fighting, or if they all teleport back over, kind of like that. But that's what you guys can just play around with and just kind of expand on this if you want. So that's pretty much it for camera movement. I mean, it's essentially just breaking down the null objects into what they're going to do for each one. So we have this first camera, camera 1, as the actual camera that's zooming in and then zooming out on each character. And then for the next one, that's our actual camcorder-like camera. And then our last one is the camera shake, where it's after they hit each other, the camera's going up and down, and then you're just making sure that you're parenting them accordingly. So that's pretty much all the time I have for today. If you guys have any questions on this, let me know. I have no idea how much time or how long this tutorial is. It's probably over 15 minutes. So yeah, thanks for sticking in there. Oh, and we're going to start on the next tutorials for... we're going to start with the effects phase now. So we're going to start to kind of get out of this just basic animating and start getting into the effects stuff. So for next time, some stuff that you guys should be looking for and definitely getting for After Effects, I'll have a list up on the screen for you, but just make sure that you look into these plugins, and you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have these, because I use them a lot in my animations. That's all the time I got for today, guys. I will catch you later.